I, Jyotsna, as a research scholar, Department of Commerce and Business Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia University, Delhi, with my professor guide, Professor N.U.K. Sherwani, I am presenting my paper Intra-Religion Trade Practices in the Period of COVID-19 Pandemic, a study on India and BIMSTEC countries. So now I am presenting my paper. Introduction. Common history and shared cultural heritage is the backbone of BIMSTEC nation. The Bay of Bengal, 7 group of countries, has also affected by COVID-19 pandemic. Regional integration helps to reduce cost of pandemic driven barriers and facilitating religion cooperation. Restriction has been relaxed in COVID-19, therefore these countries reopens their economies with innovative trade practices. Literature review. This is the literature review which shows that gravity model, which is I am going to use for my study, is use different methodology like OLS and fixed effect models with the different variables like GDP, distance, language, border, tariffs. So these are the different authors in different years and giving their papers. So this is the literature review. Objective of the study: to study trade relationship between India and BIMSTEC countries in the era of COVID-19. Second, to assess the impact on socio-economic environment of economic integration on intra-religion trade between India and BIMSTEC countries in the troubled times. So these two are the main objectives of the study. By keeping the content and the meaning of the analyzed literature review, it observed by the authors that there is no systematic study on BIMSTEC with regard to intra-religion trade between India and BIMSTEC countries. So this is the gap identified the researchers. To fill the gap, the present study has been taken by the authors. They study why there is a gap, why they are not taking interested intra-religion trade between India and BIMSTEC countries in COVID-19 period. Now these are the null hypotheses. I am taking the 4 null hypotheses. The first is there is a positive effect of GDP per capita of BIMSTEC on bilateral trade. Second, there is a negative effect of distance on bilateral trade. Third, there is a positive effect of dummy variables border on the bilateral trade. The fourth, there is a negative effect of dummy variables of language on the bilateral trade. So these are the 4 hypotheses for this study. Empirical model. So T, this is a bilateral trade constant. Now I am taking these variables GDP of India and GDP of BIMSTEC countries, distance between India and BIMSTEC countries, border, whether these countries have a border with the India, and these are the dummy variables border and language. If there is a border with India, then it's 1, otherwise it's 0. Language, this is also a dummy variable. So these are the variables for the study. Now these are the estimate of gravity model for bilateral trade for the period of 2004 to 2020, and this data is collected from the World Development Indicators. So the first is GDP of India. It shows a negative but not significant. GDP of BIMSTEC countries, that is also negative, not significant. Distance, it's a positive but the significant results. Border, negative but it's a significant result. Same, the language, it's also a significant with a positive. Now these are the effect of COVID-19 on the BIMSTEC organization. The first is the economy of the world influenced by COVID-19, and therefore they are facing slowdown of trade. The Asian countries also facing these problems, and due to the pandemic the business affected by 53% in India, 80% affected cash flow organization. So there is reduce in cash flow and give impact on supply chain. 30% of the organization adopted policies work from home and 40% from the organization. Now the difficulty faced by trade in COVID-19, change in global demand pattern, supply shocks and lack of international mobility, impact on services, IPRs will become more critical, impact on China, more de-globalization and increased emphasis on national self-reliance. So these are the difficulties faced by trade at the time of COVID-19 for these BIMSTEC countries and India. Next is a conclusion. The conclusion of the study of the paper and recommendation by this paper, this helps to defeat challenges of COVID-19 pandemic and restructure this Bay of Bengal area as a center of gravity in the region of Indo-Pacific. Second, the BIMSTEC countries are demonstrate the joint and collective devotion to the development of future economic setup, the pillar to support and flourish. So these two are basically the conclusion of this paper. And the last but not least, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to giving your valuable time